Hello kids, hope you all are fine and doing good at home. So, today let's begin with the chapter Nutrition in Animals. Before we start, let's have a look at the mind map. Now we have some learning objectives here. At the end of this chapter, you will be able to answer what is nutrition, what are its different modes, and how does nutrition takes place in human beings and unicellular organisms. What is nutrition? As we have already learned in the previous chapter, that nutrition is a mode of taking in food and utilizing it for the growth and development of the body. Now, this food contains all the five nutrients we need. The five nutrients are the carbohydrates, the proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals. As we all know, the process of nutrition varies from organism to organism. Thus, the organisms follow the different modes of nutrition, like we have autotrophic nutrition. In this mode of nutrition, the organisms prepare their own food in the presence of sunlight, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, and water. Next mode of nutrition is the heterotrophic nutrition, in which organisms depend on other organisms and plants for their food. Next mode of nutrition is the parasitic mode of nutrition, in which organisms drag their benefit from the other organism. Next is the saprophytic nutrition, in which the organisms feed on dead and decaying matter. Children, do you know what happens to the food we eat? Let's try to learn. First, to know all this, we need to know what are the organs involved in the process of digestion. The first organ involved is the buccal cavity, then esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. The process of digestion starts from the mouth. The process of taking food into the body is called as ingestion. The food is chewed and broken down into smaller pieces. Then the salivary glands secrete saliva to turn the starch into sugar called as maltose. The tongue mixes the food with saliva and helps to swallow the digested food. The swallowed food passes into the food pipe or esophagus. The food pipe runs along the neck and the chest. Food is pushed down by movement of the walls of the food pipe. This movement is called as peristaltic movement. This movement takes place throughout the alimentary canal and pushes food downwards. For the details, you can check out the diagram. After the esophagus, the food reaches to the stomach. Stomach is a thick-walled bag. It receives food from the food pipe at one end and opens in the small intestine at the other end. The inner lining of the stomach secretes mucus, hydrochloric acid, and digestive juices, which further breaks down the food into simpler components. After the stomach, the food reaches to small intestine, which is a highly coiled structure, and receives its secretions from the liver and pancreas. Besides, its walls also secrete some juices. The liver secretes bile juice that is stored in sac called gallbladder. The bile helps to digest the fats. The pancreatic juice acts on the carbohydrate, fats, and proteins and changes them into simpler form. The partly digested food now reaches the lower part of the small intestine, where the intestinal juice completes the digestion. The carbohydrate get broken down into glucose, fats into fatty acids, and glycerol, and proteins into amino acids. The digested food now passes into the blood vessels in the walls of the intestine. This process is called as absorption. The inner walls of the small intestines have thousands of finger-like outgrowths. These are called villi. The villi increase the surface area for absorption of the digested food. Each villus has a network of thin and small blood vessels close to its surface. The surface of the villi absorb the digested food materials. The absorbed food are transported via blood vessels to different organs of the body, where they are used to build complex substances such as the proteins required by the body. This process is called as assimilation. The food that remains undigested and unabsorbed enters into the large intestine. Now the undigested food passes into the large intestine, which is wider and shorter than small intestine. It is about 1.5 meter in length. Its function is to absorb water and some salts from the undigested food. The remaining waste passes into the rectum and remains there as semi-solid feces. This matter is removed through the ends from time to time. This is called as ingestion. This was all about the nutrition in higher multicellular organism, that is human being. Now let's talk about a unicellular organism, amoeba, how the feeding and digestion takes place. Amoeba is a microscopic single-cell organism found in pond water. Amoeba has a cell membrane, a round dense nucleus, and many small bubble-like vacuoles in its cytoplasm. Amoeba constantly changes its shape and position. It pushes out one or more finger-like projections called as pseudopodia for the movement and capture of the food. When it senses food, it pushes out pseudopodia around the food particle and engulfs it. The food becomes trapped in a food vacuole. Digestive juices are secreted into the food and break it down into simpler substances. Gradually, the food is absorbed. The absorbed substances are used for growth, maintenance, and multiplication. The undigested residue of the food is expelled by the vacuoles. This was all about the digestion. Now, stay safe, stay home. Thank you.